This is a story of nothing of importance, but in deathly earnest. It concerns an entirely uneventful life and the sort of absolutely ordinary person which we are told make for great fiction. Why so much esteem is placed in the elucidation of the exploits of schmoes of no discernible significance is a subject which has never quite gotten the attention it requires. In this case, let's say Joe, because, as everyone with a brain will tell you, if it's not about a male it won't sell at all. So, this Joe, he is about 5 feet 10 and has mid-brown hair screaming out inoffensive in its adherence to modern standards of masculinity. He works, I guess. He does the sort of thing which we call work. Buying and selling things that don't exist for the amusement of the secret masters. A couple hundred years ago he may well have been buying more concrete but no less fraudulent commodities, but today he must be of middling dark skin tone to pass the popularity test. After a long hard day playing the liquid pop killer game, he goes out to clubs where he successfully picks up a string of moderately appealing, acceptably ethnically diverse partners. Though we'll leave some mystery here for the sake of extending appeal to the myriad forms of sexuality which permeate the collective conscious about now. Also because it will infuriate the most crystallized entities who still lord their pious might over the backward places we civilized folk fear to tread. Can you dig it? Joe has a sedan, white, which bystanders will describe as variously Japanese, Korean, Italian, or maybe German. Some might even say American, but long-term observation would counterindicate this based on a decent reliability. He probably names it. Males do that. Chuck. Yeah? Manly. No? Oh. Okay, Barbara. Just so it's not too sexy. Flesh and machine must not mate. Joe drives Barbara every day, but for those rare moments when he is fully in the black for a weekend. At that point, he rents a nice German car, buys a goodly amount of high-grade powder and visits distant discotheques to pursue what he considers a higher class of tale. This phrasing appeals to men. Last night, the club featured retro music. They played the god-awful stadium rocker pompous nonsense which is culturally accepted as appropriate for drunkenness in public. He had managed to flash enough cash and fly enough nose candy to take home a statuesque blonde and done obscenities out of the realm of nightmare to her for as long as she calculated his investment of time to be worth. She has taken flight thereafter, head-wandering through the effects of last night on her happy marriage and 2.5 kids. The offensively befoul Victoria's Secret set was left behind. Joe remained undecided for some days to keep them as a trophy or burn them. Chuck is Joe's best friend. He is larger about the tongue than his more average friend, somewhat balder, and in line for early onset dementia, though it is unlikely to come into play. He is otherwise remarkable only insofar as he exemplifies the current, degenerate state of humanity. Chuck himself solves the problem of the panties by using them in a slut-shaming campaign. The blonde, exposed, ended up the subject of an ID murder porn. First it giveth, then it taketh away. You want Chuck to have a bad end, but in fact, this well-thought-of hedge fund massacre lives to a ripe old age and leaves a long line of broken young men in his wake that would make a pre-Francis Pope envious. One hopes, as Francis really does seem like he's trying to catch up a bit, doesn't he? Joe likes his social commentary simpler and catchier. He just might be a Trump man? No, let's say he's unelegant, but not always informed. John Stewart, Stephen Colbert, Larry Wilmore, Trevor Noah is funny sometimes, but insert a specific element of a show. Doesn't work for me, is a pretty good way to put it. But he definitely doesn't go out of his way to keep up with conventional news media in any case. Today, though, something told him to grab a newspaper during his mid-morning walk to the place up the street for anti-hangover juice and cheap sunglasses to replace those broken the previous night. Oakley? Two dish for Joe? Okay. Those big mirror ones cops and hair metal people like. The elixir steams an acrid vapor directly into paths recently assailed by South American confections, rousing him enough to begin a lazy Saturday. Another friend, different from Chuck for, admittedly obvious, narrative reasons. Holla hey, how are you? The sort of things normal people say to each other. Until did you see this? Joe's friend has his phone out and is attempting to show him something of interest.